Right, and we're recording. How you doing today, Jen?
I am doing wonderful.
Awesome. Real quick, can you drag that mic?
That was already.
That's hilarious.
All right.
Like literally, I just said, then you're like, just let me know if I need to drag it closer. Anyways, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's a little chilly outside but I'm doing really well.
Yeah, for those people that are listening from like Florida or like the Carolinas, it's cold as fuck here in Michigan.
Yes. I wasn't expecting it to be this cold today. So yeah, it was a little eye-opening, but it is what it is.
Yeah. It's kind of been a shocker like weekend because it snowed. A couple of mornings ago, I woke up and my daughter's like, "It's snowing," and I'm like, "No way."
It was spitting out a little bit of flakes this morning too before I went in to work on my first client. So yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. What is going on? When is summer ever going to come?
Who knows? Last year in March, it was so dry till like the middle of June, I think. So that is Michigan.
That is Michigan, where it's cold like 8 months out of the year.
Yes. I'll say yes. Depends on the year, but yes.
Yeah. So speaking of Michigan, are you from Michigan? Are you from the Lansing area?
I actually grew up in a small town south of Lansing, in Leslie. So yes, I am originally from Michigan in the Lansing area.
Now, what's Leslie like? Is it like a small town?
Very small town. Okay. When I lived there, everybody knew everybody. I'm sure it hasn't changed much.
What is the population like there? How many people would you say?
I'm
sure it's grown over the years, but
I have no idea, honestly.
No. How many kids did you have in your graduating class?
92.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, that's small. Yep. And it was more girls than boys the year that we graduated. So.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Not so fortunate for the girls, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, I guess that's kind of thing. Yeah.
So tell me about yourself. Do you live in Lansing now?
Yes, I live in East Lansing, Okemos border. And once I left, I went to college at MSU, and I originally had planned on being the first woman president. But that quickly changed. I did get a horticulture degree from Michigan State. And
you got a what?
Horticulture degree. Okay. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay, so there's different aspects of it, but it's growing vegetables. It can be working in a winery and, making vineyards, and there's the landscape nursery aspect of it. There's just different aspects, but it's all has to do with nature. Mm. Yes, not the concrete part. That's the landscape architects.
Okay.
Like if you go into like a mall parking lot and you see trees and bushes and stuff, and you see a lot of concrete, that's landscape architect. Okay. Where horticulture is more gardening, landscaping, growing stuff that you actually eat.
So maybe you can answer this question. This is a question I've had for a while, but like as you're driving through East Lansing on the countryside of it, just right around the corner.
Okay.
There's like right off of Mount Hope and right off of like right next to the golf course. There's these fields, and the colors of grass are different.
Oh yeah.
And they're like it looks like they're just shaved. It almost like it looks so weird. Like the texture just looks weird. It looks fake. What is that?
Depending on where you're talking, there is places that is the turf management places out there, and they grow different grasses to do. Michigan State's a very research university, mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of different areas that they test things out with grasses, even like apples, and they have a farm that they grow their own trees and make hybrids of different things, apples and fruits and, that kind of stuff.
Interesting. Now, mm-hmm. Did you ever get involved in any of that stuff?
I did go to the farm once or twice, but I never did that aspect of it. This was a long time ago. I'm a lot older than I look. But when I did it, I didn't go into that aspect of it. I did do the landscape nursery, but that was a time where they were shifting. I could decide what I wanted to do, and I wasn't sure, and I went to the landscape nursery aspect of it. So I was really happy that I did do that. But
Now, what made you want to do that?
if I'm honest with you, I chose I chose a degree that would allow me not to have to deal with politics. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do a 180. And I didn't realize at the time that life is politics, so you'd never get away from it, right? But at the time, I was very naive and thought, oh, I'm just going to talk to trees and plants, and it'll be one, and it'll be that, it'll be that. So, yeah, that's what I did.
Were you originally planning on going to school for politics?
Yeah, I was seriously thinking about going and doing something in the political realm. When I was in like 6th grade, I had a whole like list of how I was going to do this and then do that and then that. And I was like, oh, and then when I started actually getting involved, I was like, oh, okay. So you either have to have a name or money or yeah, I couldn't figure out how I was going to solve the world's problems, you know, because I couldn't see. I mean, I'm really about the bigger picture, but I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Now,
how do we figure this out?
what kind of problems would you want to solve that made you want to go into politics?
Well, because I thought I could, you know, unite and make everyone love everyone. Basically, I mean, it's very naive, but I mean, I there was more involved, of course, at the time.
Yeah.
But that was really, I'm like, why can't we all get along? Like I didn't understand. Like even it didn't matter how many religious courses I took. It didn't matter. I was like, why? I just don't understand why.
That's kind of a question I like to ask myself today. Is like, why can't people get along with all the technology and everything we know and like the constant like you have access to all the information at the palm of your hand. You can find literally anything out instantaneously, and we're all still divided.
Yeah, it really bothers me. Like it really has bothered me that we're this divided.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad.
Yes. And I thought we were coming a little bit together with COVID lockdown and stuff, because I kept seeing a really good friend of mine passed away literally a week before lockdown. He didn't have COVID. He died of other things, but I literally spent my time grieving, and I just kept seeing all the positive things in the world. I didn't see all the, I mean, I'm not taking away the people that we lost and all that kind of stuff. I just kept seeing all the positive, and I was like, oh my God, you know. So yeah, I really don't have an answer for you.
What kind of effects, I don't want to talk too much about COVID because it's been over talked about and it's just but what kind of effects do you think the long lasting effects of COVID will have on society, like as far as like the young people coming up and like the way people treat each other? Do you see it getting better?
Some, yes, because people miss and crave that human contact. I'm also a massage therapist, which I haven't gone into that yet. So through when we were on lockdown, I had months of people, because I have a lot of regulars that have a lot of chronic pain. They have a lot of autoimmune diseases. And so they were really upset that they could not see me. They couldn't understand why I wasn't a medical. It was like all massage therapists were locked down. There wasn't a difference on that. So I saw the yin and the yang, I guess, of how people were interacting. Maybe they were missing. Some people were enjoying the fact that they didn't have to deal with humans.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. And I have some friends that have really embraced that aspect of COVID, and like, I never leave my house, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So, but I do. I don't know. It's such a touchy subject because everybody comes from a different perspective, right? So, but I hope that we've learned something. I don't know about the kids so much. I've seen some reactions because at one point in time, for my own experience, my brother-in-law had gotten COVID. When my niece found out, and this was just, at the beginning of this year, I think she thought he was going to die. Like, that was her thought, because my sister had informed me that, she had such a reaction to it that it was just, I was like, oh my God, because why would she feel that way? So is it the pressures of, And my sister and my brother-in-law don't like have news on 24/7 or anything like that.
Yeah.
So is it just life?
I mean, I think it might have just been a narrative that was kind of portrayed that, you know, I mean, and it is a true narrative for some people, you know, like some people, when they did get COVID, they like were at high risk of dying.
Yes.
Whereas like some people who got it would be completely fine. Like I got COVID twice and I was fine. I was sick like for a couple days, but aside from that, I was fine. But like for some people, it's like it could be a deadly thing and it's scary.
Yes.
So I get that perspective for some people.
Yes. And I don't have an answer because to my knowledge, I never got COVID.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
To my knowledge. Now,
yeah, crazy antibodies.
Yeah. Or did I have it and didn't have any symptoms?
Yeah,
and the couple times that I've had been tested, I've never tested negative, or positive.
Positive.
Yeah, never tested negative, but you know what I mean.
You never had COVID.
No, I never had COVID to my knowledge. Yeah. So yeah. So but I also play it safe with my clients because they are high risk, and I'm willing to do what they need for.
Their protection.
I'm okay with that. So,
yeah. I'm just glad to see society going back to kind of back to normal in a sense.
Yes.
It's been a slow process, but it's nice to be able to see people unmasked and see their face and like have conversations face to face and like feel like humans again.
Yes. Yes. Now I did travel for the first time in February in 2 years, and I'm a big traveler. So getting on the plane, I was a little nervous, not so much about the traveling part. We haven't talked about this, but I am an empath and an intuitive. So seeing the people freak out about mask stuff on planes, I was like, oh my God, am I going to be able to be on a plane for this long with people and their energy and having to deal with it? Oh, that was a little nerve wracking. But other than that, it was, back to same old. I mean, I was like, oh, okay. So they changed a little bit of stuff in 2 years going through TSA, but other than that, all right.
Well, that's cool. It's nice to be able to get back to some of the things that we once, missed. So anyways, let's get into your line of work, and you said you're an empath.
Yes.
Can you explain what that is and like what all that entails?
Well, I'll try.
Okay.
So since I was a little girl, I didn't even know. I just thought this was part of the human experience. So since I was little, and I probably did step away from the
you're
mic
good.
For a second.
You sound good.
I've had these abilities. I can feel things in a room when I walk in or when I'm near someone. I can feel what they're feeling. I may not understand it all the time.
Can you feel what I'm feeling?
Yes, I think, but I can't really speak of it at this moment. I mean, like, I can't give you like, hey, this is what you're doing. Like,
okay.
Sometimes I can.
This episode is brought to you by Red Bike Delivery. This delivery service operates only using battery-powered, eco-friendly transportation. Red Bike Delivery is there for all your delivery needs, whether it's dinner for the family, flowers for your partner, or new houseplants for your new collection. Red Bike Delivery will gladly deliver those and everything in between. So what are you waiting for? Check out Red Bike Delivery on Facebook or Instagram for more information. Red Bike Delivery, because there's only one Earth. You have to like process it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless I'm like, when I'm doing massage, it's a whole different thing because when I'm touching the body, like I literally have visions and I see things that can come in colors or actually vision, like a scene or a person or an experience
that they're having.
That is there because I really believe, from all my experiences that our body holds all the memory and the trauma and the stuff that we haven't let go of.
Absolutely.
So I feel what I call energy blocks. I don't know what else to call it. It can be like a tension area, but it literally will go through my body. I can feel tingling. I can feel nauseous. I can get an instant headache. Since COVID lockdown, if there is a really bad energy pocket, I have to stop my massage and I actually have to excuse myself and go use the restroom. I mean, not trying to be giving you a horrible visual, but true experience many times. So, but it can be very intense. But I've had these things since I was little, and I just thought that was normal. So I didn't have language for it. I didn't have words for it. I didn't know what it was. And then, I don't know, maybe, I'm trying to think, maybe 15 years ago or so, I started seeing the list of what an empath means or the abilities. I'm not so much an introvert. I'm more of an extrovert, but I can feel like an introvert when I'm overwhelmed with energy of too much of experience. But yeah.
So when you're giving somebody a massage and you feel all their experiences and a lot of their trauma, and you essentially take that on yourself because you said you absorb that energy.
Sometimes, yes.
How do you manage that energy?
I have to do self-care for myself. Like, I will wear stones, different crystals that will help block it. I will shield it myself. There are times where I have to well, it depends on how many massages I'm doing in a day, how many people, and what the experience is. Sometimes I've had to cancel people and say, you know what, I just had this really intense experience, and there's no way I can release this before I'm going to work on you. So I'm going to have to, reschedule you either later in the day or the next day or something like that. Because I'll either smudge myself with Palo Santo or hang on to some selenite or take like an Epsom salt bath. Usually it's about a bath or a shower that will do it the quickest for me. But it depends, because I truly believe that all autoimmune diseases are because they're trauma based of something that happened usually in childhood, but sometimes in other experiences too.
So how would you explain that for somebody who's gone most of their life without an autoimmune disease and then they develop it?
The best way I can describe it, because I'm not a doctor and I can only explain from my perspective, is that the body, because of the trauma, and it's never been either acknowledged or released or worked through, because I believe, I believe that all things, because we're all onions, okay? I view it this way, okay? So we all have layers. Some people never want to. I hit a thing now that I'm coughing. All right. That's the universe going, yeah, that's right. Speak about it. Okay. So we're all onions and we all have layers. And some people don't ever want to peel back a layer. Or maybe they'll peel back one or two. But some trauma-based stuff, if it wasn't acknowledged when they were younger, or even in their early 20s, if it happened in their childhood, then it could hold in your body. And depending on if you ever work through it, and I totally believe in, mental health is a good thing, to have a positive one and to work through it. Not everybody can find talk therapy to work. So sometimes they'll have to find their own way. I personally have been on my own healing journey for 15 years, give or take. And I didn't know I had all these layers of stuff to work through, And so I had originally just made the decision that I was going to, even though I'm a really happy person, get rid of the bitterness that I was holding on to, stuff that I can't control that had happened, right?
How did you choose to do that?
Well, actually, I used to watch Oprah all the time.
Oh.
I was like, oh, she's like, but she, because of some of her shows and stuff, introduced me to different people that I could, like, oh, when they're talking, I can relate to what they're saying. Like, I really have enjoyed, like, Brene Brown over the years, or Deepak Chopra. But there's other people who she's introduced on things that I've watched that I can't relate to them. Their tone is monotone or whatever. So you got to find what works for you, right? So that's how I first started. Like, I would find someone who was like, oh, they inspire me. They hit something in me. How do I work through it? So I would read what they'd written or listen to interviews or whatever that their thing, I guess is the best way.
And you would try to apply it to your life and your situation?
Yes. And then as I was evolving and I was meeting people, then I would try something else. I found like acupuncture is really good for me. I have found that a lot of energy-based therapies work great for me because I absorb all this stuff. But again, this is even before I knew I was an empath, right?
Right.
And am I still working?
No,
well
you're
with
good.
that?
You're
Okay.
good. Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of things that I was learning about myself as I started this journey in ways that I didn't even know. Because when I lived in Colorado for almost 8 years, and I was doing, working on a golf course, doing the horticulture, and I went to school for massage there. But as I was there, I had a Chinese medicine instructor. He was an actual doctor, but he also, trained us in Western too. So because of things that he was saying too, because I always pick up everybody's information. Like, I'm such a curious person that I'm like, oh, so if something like, oh, maybe I should think about that, or how do I find out more information, or some of it's like a quick, or if I'm noticing like people bring up the same topic, multiple times. Oh, that might be something I need to look into. Like that's how that's how I read it. And so as I've been going on the journey, that's really what I've been doing. So it starts off with reading books, Oprah, and then it has just like evolved. And then what I was learning along the way too is a lot of this stuff we don't talk about. We just don't talk about it. And like, why don't we talk about it?
Like what?
Well, we're just now talking about mental health therapy,
Yeah.
and why are we not only are we not, why aren't we talking about the talk therapy, but why aren't we talking about there's other sources out there that you can possibly, that doesn't work for you. Some people who talk about the same loop, then they're staying in the loop. How are you shuffling out of looking at a new experience?
Do you think a lot of that has to do with the pharmaceutical companies because they make money off of people who constantly go to therapy, and then they can put them on all these different medications?
Okay.
And it's
that is such
a revolving door.
It not only is a revolving door. Let's get real. Okay, so we're going to go into a topic that people are going to be like, "What?" Okay, so the reality of what I believe in this country is that the lobbyists really rule and run this entire country. And if people understood that, we could get so much further. It is not the politicians. It's not the president. I mean, it's not. It's the lobbyists, and they're moving and shaking. And the pharmaceutical...
What do you think could be done about that, though?
I don't know. Because again,
you'd almost have to overthrow them somehow.
You have to, but it's, that's how this has been set up. And I do believe that a lot of the I'm not knocking Western medicine. I'm not, because I think there's a lot of things that are good.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that I know that I've worked on over the years that a lot of their problems is because the doctors don't understand. They only understand what they understand. So what does that make sense? Majority of the doctors in this country, unless they choose to do this, they don't even understand the nutrition in the body. And you're like, how do you know? What? And that's a real thing. So,
well, I think especially too because science constantly changes, and they're learning more and more each day. But the doctors don't have the time to sit there and go to school constantly to learn these things. So, because they have a caseload of clients that they constantly have to work with, so they're only working with what they know and what they learned in school.
Yes, but also if you listen or read about a lot of the drugs that they give you, there's more issues with the side effects than what you're actually dealing with.
Yeah,
so that causes another thing. Yeah, and I personally have had clients who, because of the client's issues and they weren't being diagnosed properly, that they were kept being put on drugs that then they got addicted to because they kept being put on drugs, and then they're classified as a drug addict when it wasn't their... It's a crazy cycle.
It's a revolving door because once you get somebody in there to start taking these medications, and then they get addicted to them, now they're making money because they're coming back for more, and then they go to rehab, and then they might fail again, and they go back for more, and just it's a
Yep.
it's
Yep.
a revolving door.
It really is. It really, really, really is on so many levels.
So where are we going with that? I don't remember.
I don't know. Probably why I went on my journey to begin with.
Okay.
Probably, I think that's where it started, but then we cycled into this. But that's part of why I started the podcast that I started. And she's very young as a podcast, but I have learned.
What's the name of your podcast?
It's called The Naughty Mystic.
Why'd you name it that?
Because I like to swear. I want to talk about the topics that are taboo. So I want people to be aware that, you're not going to be just walking into like a everyday kind of podcast.
Yeah.
Because I haven't talked about all the topics I want to talk about, but so far, I'm diving into like things that I like and that I'm interested in, but I like to do the history of this stuff. And sometimes the history and knowledge about stuff, you're like, what?
So when you're doing this podcast, is it like is it just you talking? Do you research a subject and then you discuss the subject? What is the format like?
Kind of everything.
I like that. I like you're all over the place.
Yeah. So, because I'm a very curious person and I like travel. I like learning about new things. There's things I'm always learning about. And so far, I'll give you examples so far of what I've done. I've talked about like pomegranates and where they come from and the nutrition of them. I've done cilantro / coriander for food aspects so far. I've done some astrology because I like astrology, but I don't consider myself an astrologer. But I do think that has correlations with what goes on with people's lives. I've done health, healing, and trauma. And I've introduced like what I've already discussed about the massage and body mechanics, because everything goes back to how your health, how your mind, your body, your spirit, your heart relates to every corresponding aspect. And I have done an episode strictly about foreskin and the American version of circumcision, which people are like, what?
Yeah.
You've done what? and that all actually bases, because as a massage therapist, I have to do so many educational CEUs because I'm licensed in 3 states. So each state has different requirements. And I had an anatomy class back in August of 2020 that was actually done, by Zoom, but there was a donor, and I had never had an anatomy class donor, and the donor happened to be male, and he wasn't circumcised. And the instructor went into a whole 50-minute discussion about not only circumcision, the American version versus the religious aspect, but everything about foreskin. And I was like, I've never thought about foreskin.
There's 2 different versions?
Oh, yeah. There's yeah. I don't know if your listeners want to hear this, but
let's talk about it.
So basically when it's in a religious form, it's like a little snip. It's not like tearing apart the whole foreskin. When the little baby comes out and it gets the American circumcision, there's so much foreskin to take away. So it doesn't have the actual foreskin for when, because it's actually cleaner. But let me backtrack. So the doctors, I'm not a mother. I have never had children, so I don't know the whole thing that they do, but I have been informed that the parents are like, here, sign a waiver so you can, do the circumcision. It's the cleanest, it's the healthiest, it's for your little boy. Well, that's not necessarily true. What happens is that because the way the foreskin wraps around the penis and everything is that all your pubic area where the hair is not supposed to go all the way up the shaft. That is not normal. Like the foreskin actually is there to lubricate. It is to clean. There's certain ways you have to clean, but it's actually the healthier version. And most of the world does that. We don't do that. And the foreskin, when it
Most other countries do that?
Most other countries don't do the American version of circumcision.
But do they circumcise?
Not usually because of religious. Now, it all depends. Because, But the way the American circumcision is done is very, I don't know the dates, but I want to say it was Protestants that did this back in the 1800s. And
wasn't it a Jewish thing to do?
Well, that's the religious aspect. This is the American circumcision, because I think it's the Protestants, and I may say it wrong because I don't have it right. But they had back, like I want to say 1800s, they were going to stop lust and masturbation. So let's cut it off and, stop them from doing that. Well, we all know that's not going to happen. Let's get real. But but I think it's a really important thing, because I didn't know that 50% of the erogenous zone is taken away when you do that, when you do the American version of circumcision. Mm-hmm. So I was like, that I think people need to know. And I've actually had a couple of people who've listened to the whole episode that they're like, well, I would have changed my whole decision on my sons, and I feel horrible. And it's not to make people feel bad. It's just, I feel like you should know more information. And if you're curious, then go look into it more yourself, Yeah. Because I was like, I had never thought of foreskin ever.
I mean, why would you?
Right. I know. And the thing is that when you are American circumcised, it's rough on the penis, but it's also set up when it doesn't have that foreskin, that will actually lube and hit the vaginal walls even smoother, and it will be there isn't so much friction and issues that could hurt either person.
So you did a whole episode on this. Mm-hmm. What was the feedback like?
So far, everyone that's listened to it, they're like, I would have made a different decision with my sons.
Is it primarily women that listen to your podcast, or?
So far, I think it's half and half, but with who I work through, like, I'm just learning the data stuff. Yeah. So it's like, I think it's like 43 or 45 or something, because there's non-binary and people who don't say who they are. So yeah, I think right now it's so far women, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting facts, and that's something that, again, that's a taboo subject that not many people talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then like I have an upcoming, I haven't set it up yet, but pelvic floor therapy will be discussed, and that's a whole thing that every woman needs to have pelvic floor therapy.
What is that?
Okay, so it is, well, I don't know. I haven't figured out the wording on this yet, but basically it's everything in the pelvic floor for women. Not that men don't have pelvic floor, but when there is bladder leakage, or if women are hurting in sex when they're having sex, it's all muscle related around. I didn't even know this, that there's 3 different layers of muscles. And not around the vagina and the vaginal walls. So anything that's tight, or it's not tight enough, and it's not just Kegels, because I've been doing my own little survey about this. and the responses I get is, I've never heard of this. What are you talking about? Or, oh, I've had this experience, and this is my experience. Again, we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Didn't even know that people are not, having these experiences. Or my favorite is, oh, you need to do Kegels, or if you don't use it, you lose it. I'm like, no, that's not what that is. So yeah, and the PT that I've been working with, she and I are going to start doing interviews I'm going to be interviewing her starting in June. Oh. So because of scheduling and stuff, but so that's a whole thing that I'm like, why are we not talking about this? So
you're really interested in bringing some awareness to a lot of the like anatomy and different things that is kind of looked at culturally as like a taboo type of subject.
Yes. But also what I'm also learning too is like astrology to me is like fun. It's like informative. What's above is same as below. And there are people who think that is taboo because of their own religious beliefs, that they're like, I would never. And I'm like, oh, so there's so many, like everything can be considered taboo, seriously.
Yeah.
One of the first topics I was originally going to start talking about was grief. And that is such a big one that everyone's like, you're going to start off with that, John? I was like, all right. So I've kind of like backed off on it. But yeah.
What was so taboo about grief?
Well, because it's such a heavy subject. Mm-hmm. Such a heavy subject. And so, yeah, so I'm holding off on that one just for a hot minute. But
what would you discuss about grief?
Well, I don't think that we talk about it enough, especially in this country. I can't speak about other countries, but I really feel perfect examples when my friend passed away. And it was during COVID, and nobody wanted to bring it up to me. They're like, how are you, coping? How are you dealing? Because how I see it, and this is from my perspective, is that it's basically, okay, you get 3 days off from work, and all right, good luck, and then nobody talks about it, and we all move on. And grief can come in different forms, and it doesn't just go away. And we can go up and down and all around. And there's just different aspects. I mean, because nobody, I think, grieves the same. And I don't know if we're really given allowance to grieve. And grief just doesn't mean like somebody passed away. It can be the grief that you have to move on from a dream that you had, or a job that you had, or an idea, or it's like everything. Yeah. Like literally everything in your life. Because I don't know if transformation is a thing that, I know a lot of people aren't good with change, but I think, I really believe with the whole things have to be let go before you can burn. I like to burn things. I like to burn things. So like when I want to get rid of something, if it's in paper form, I like to burn it. Like not just take it to Goodwill and, like if it's cool, I'm good with that. But, or give it to somebody else. But for me, it's like I have to like see like a visual of something burning away so something new can come. And I think that's part of the grieving process too.
Well, there's different steps to grieving.
Yes.
There's different steps of the process.
Yes.
I don't remember them all.
I don't remember them right now either. I didn't think we were going to talk about this. So,
I didn't either.
Yeah. So, hey, there we go. But yeah, but everybody has different steps. And I think the biggest thing that I have noticed, and part of the reason why I started the podcast too, is that I have a lot of people, whether they're clients or friends or family, they're like, well, that's interesting. Why are you even talking? Why did you even think about that? And there's a lot of people that just want to know information. And they may, if the topic's what I would call woo-woo, if you're too back, they would consider it like hippie or whatever, or they're just like, well, that's interesting. I'd like to know more information, but they don't know where to get it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that.
Well, I mean, sure, it could be woo-woo, but there is scientific proof that everything has energy.
Yes, absolutely.
So like there's certain aspects to a certain point where it's not woo-woo.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So for somebody to just dismiss it and say, well, that's a woo-woo subject and not discuss it, that's an easy way to dismiss something.
But we're going back to the point of where you started, like, why are we so divided?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Because there's so many people who are like, well, because we have the logical people and we have the feelers, right? And some of the logical people don't understand what the feelers are feeling, because they're like, well, I don't experience that. Because I really believe that everybody has abilities on whatever that is, intuitively, energetically.
Some people have abilities to be an asshole.
That is a true statement. Yes, that is a true statement. They're really good at it. and they're happy about it, and they're happy. That's what they want to just be like that. But I believe that people are, that's just what I believe.
What kind of abilities do you think people are capable of?
I believe people can see visions. I believe people can see colors and auras. And I've been told that I'm psychic and medium also.
What does that mean?
So that you can predict things, or you just know things without knowing how you know stuff. You can see things. There's different kind of psychic ability. And mediumship means like you can see the other side and you can talk to people on the other side.
Whoa.
And for many years, I was told this many years, and I would just answer, like if I had a reading with somebody or whatever, if it was like a tarot reading or just a reading in general because they had abilities, everyone would say, and you're psychic medium. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And people were like, what? You say what to them? I was like, but that's stuff I'm exploring now, because I have had a couple of really good friends that are on the other side, and they're with me all the time. And I have had experiences with both of them. So
now, do you get any pushback from any of this? Like people calling bullshit? Like,
oh, all the time.
All the time.
But do I care? No.
What do those people say to you?
Some people are like, but what are you talking about? Like my abilities or about
as far as any of it? I mean, I guess the people calling what you do and the things that you believe woo-woo.
Oh, okay. Well, what I have known in the last, I would say probably 10 years, more people who are open to that are coming to me. Or people who have kind of like on the fence, they're somehow the universe is bringing them to me because I believe in that. You can believe in whatever you want, God, the source.
I definitely believe that people come into your life for a reason.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and I think it's not necessarily a woo-woo thing, right? Like
No.
it's something like the energy you provide and you give off to people like accept that. Like when we first met, there's an energy there. Like it might be like an awkward type of energy. Like we're just trying to get to know each other.
Yeah, feel it out.
Yeah, feel it out.
Like what?
But like people come into your life for a reason and they're attracted to whatever energy you give off. And it could be a good energy, it could be a bad energy.
Could. And also I do believe that people come in sometimes, even if it's in just a pure conversation, but they come in maybe to teach you something. I have someone specifically in my life that I know that he is there to hit every trigger. And so I can outgrow that trigger. And I know it. And I know it. And sometimes I'm like, but I get it. But I do. But I appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's
Does it make you better as a person?
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the beautiful things that I realize, astrologically, I'm a triple fire sign. So
you're a what?
Triple fire sign. So I got a lot of energy, a lot of fire.
You definitely have a lot of energy.
Yeah. And I'm being calm. This is me being calm. But I always had like a pit of fire in the butt. It's the best way I can describe it in my stomach. So I could get like, if you get triggered me, not necessarily all the time, like jump start quick, but I could learn, and especially when I was younger and I didn't understand I was an empath and that I picked up on people's energy so much, I took a lot of stuff personally, because I thought it was me. Right? Like, why are they doing this to me? But it's really, other people's projections of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but when my friend passed, I really feel like he took that. That was his gift when he left, was because now I don't react as much. But I do appreciate the fact of when there are people in my life that I was like, they have to poke.
Do you think it gives you a greater appreciation of life?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because things happen for a reason. Like, yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's not pretty. And when what I would call like level up or ascend, to move up to even a higher vibration, it is not pretty. Let me tell you, last week, the week of the changing of the time and that full moon, and full moons don't usually affect me at all. Oh, my God.
How did it affect you?
Oh, it was bad. It was bad. I couldn't sleep. I had pain that I don't normally have. I really didn't sleep very well, and that whole Friday was bad. I was cranky, and I'm not a cranky person. My sister was like, "Oh, you're not usually like this." I'm like, "I know." We won't even go into the stuff that I was saying that day, but was it nice? So I just try to stay away from people.
Now, when you are giving people massages and stuff,
yes,
and you can feel their experiences and some of the things that they've gone through. You're seeing these visions. What kind of things are you seeing?
Okay, well, one time I had a client. I don't know how long I had been working on her for. I don't remember. I don't think it was like the first time I worked on her. I think it had been a couple times. And I saw on her left, it was like basically up in her left shoulder. And I was touching it, and there was an energy pocket. But what I kept visualizing was a green web with a black spider. And I said to her,
"You have a spider in your body."
Well, it wasn't that. I just said, I don't understand what this means, but I feel like you have something with your heart chakra. Like there is your heart broken. Maybe you haven't released. Like you're trying to web it together or to protect yourself, but I really feel like you have heartbreak. And she didn't go into specifics, but she just started crying. So I don't know like what that represented, but I've seen that. I worked on someone a couple years ago that had pain in her leg that no one could explain. She had gone to the doctors, done all the stuff, and she just couldn't get rid of this pain. And when I touched that particular part of her leg, it was just bright yellow. I just kept seeing bright yellow. And it didn't mean anything to me because usually bright yellow means the stomach, like the solar plex, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And there wasn't I didn't have a stomach pain because usually if I see a color, then it associates to another part of my body. To tell me where it's going. And I said, because I kept trying to figure it out before I said anything to her. And I said, so what does bright yellow mean to you?
Oh, wow.
And she said, my granddaughter. And I said, okay. I said, this pain is associated with her. I just know it. And I didn't know. I mean, she told me after the massage that she had been concerned some things with her granddaughter had been happening. And so she had been worried and stressed, but she didn't know that was what the leg pain was.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy. And do you have these experiences quite often when you're giving massages?
Yes, I have one regular client who tells me, he told me a couple months ago, your job sucks. And I said, what? And she's like, well, because you can feel all the stuff and, I was like, no, I wouldn't be doing it if I hated it, But she's like, you feel everything. And she has a lot of autoimmune diseases and stuff like that. So I've witnessed, yeah. So there's been times where I've actually had to stop working on people because it was just too much. I was literally going to throw up on them before.
I was talking to Jessica Sanfilippo. I can't remember how to say her last name, but Jessica or Jennifer. Oh, crap. I don't remember.
Okay.
Anyways, I did an episode with her last summer, and she had breast cancer. And she had told me that she went through this healing process, and she had just left this really bad relationship. And after she left the relationship, I think she might have done some healing things, and it went away. And she thinks it was due to the bad relationship. It caused a bunch of trauma, and I don't know. She explained there's certain areas of the body that are specific to certain kinds of trauma.
Yes, it can be. Yes.
Yeah. Could you explain that?
Well, again, I have found that it depends on the person.
Oh, okay.
Because of my experiences, because I have seen astrologically, each body part has a different association to a different, knees are Capricorn, also bones are Capricorn because of what they represent. But I personally have just noticed different things with different people. So I haven't seen the correlation with the different body part for this specific trauma for me personally.
Okay.
When I'm working on people, because a lot of people, probably because of the type of people that I tend to work on a more regular basis, have autoimmune, so their whole body has taken over the trauma because they never released it.
So when somebody comes to you and they're like, I want you to work on me, I have issues, I have trauma that I need to deal with. Do they know that they have an issue? No, they don't know.
They don't usually know that there's trauma.
Wow.
They don't usually know that that's their thing. So the at least that's been my experience so far. I haven't had anyone that said, "Oh, I have this trauma. I want you to figure this out." Because I don't really announce that to people because it does freak some people out. So I just kind of let that, and I wait to see it, how they're, receiving. There's some people, I tell them immediately when I start working on them. Sometimes, because I actually go to people's houses, so so I get the feel of their house, but I also see, how they're interacting. And some people I tell them immediately, even before I touch them, like, I'm intuitive, I'm an empath. This is what I experience sometimes, Some of them are like, yeah, and other people are like, I actually had an experience last fall of a woman. When I was working on her, she told me when I walked in, she's like, I knew you were a good witch the minute you walked in. I said, what? I'd never had anyone tell me that. She's like, yeah. And I made her release some stuff. She ended up crying and releasing some stuff, but she's like, I don't like doing that. And I said, well, all right, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, so, I mean, I have like just different, because you have different people who have different belief systems too.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so some people are more open to, hey, tell me whatever you got to tell me. And then there's other people who like, I don't want to know this.
Just massage me.
Yeah. Or it's out of their, because I have a lot of people who work in like tech, so they're more logical. Their brains work more like an engineer.
Okay.
Versus like, I look at it as how we view things, probably because of when I was in horticulture. Because I really don't, I do my own horticulture now. I don't work for other people for that. But I always noticed that like a lot of people either had the engineer mind or the artistic mind. Okay. So
what's more prevalent, do you think?
I think we're really more meshed than people want to think they are But when I worked in garden centers, I always knew who the engineers were that walked in because they're the only ones that had the tape measure. Like every time, and I would walk up to them. Didn't matter if it was male or female, and they'd have the tape measure. And I was like, "You're an engineer." Yeah, how'd you know? Because you guys are the only ones that come in, like have it. And I'm not talking about the people who come in. They have to make sure that they're certain, for their. But yeah. But I think we're really actually more blended. I just think the people who are more logical and practical, they are skeptical about what they're feeling because again, this is not something that we talk about, right?
Right.
Because who knows, they think we're crazy or religious beliefs or it's not talked about in the family. Like I grew up in a family, we didn't talk about it. I didn't know it was a thing. Like and there's lots of things I experienced that I just thought was normal. And, one of my really good girlfriends that is no longer here, she's been gone for 6 years, and she would tell me, Jen, that's not normal. Well, she was one of the people that actually helped me to see this aspect of life. But when I would tell her story, she's like, yeah, not everybody does it. And I've actually been told by people who have read me or who know empathic, abilities or have friends that are empaths who have literally told me I've never met anyone like you where you can feel everything. Because most empaths have different qualities or they'll have one or the other or whatever, but they're like you have. So I don't even know what that means. Like I can't tell you what that means because I don't know. I only know what my experience is.
Do you think it makes you feel crazy sometimes?
When I was a kid, yeah. Because I kept being told that what I was feeling or because I would know things and I would tell people and the adults would tell me I was crazy or like, that's not what's really going on. But really, I saw the bigger picture and I could tell what was going on. Because I can walk into a room and assess the room and everything that's happening, what you can visually see is not what emotionally is happening. Or energetically or both.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Like a lot. Yeah. So, and I've been taking some classes recently that the instructor had informed me that in one of the classes I should be teaching it. And I'm like, but I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. Like, I don't have the language. That's the other thing about the podcast I like that I'm doing too, is that like, everything has language, but if you don't know what you're asking, because you don't even know that it's a thing.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to know anything more about it?
Right. So
that's
it's almost like real time you learning about it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
At times. Yeah.
So when you sit down to do a podcast, do you research the subject before you record? Do you sorry. My brother sent me a text message. I shut my phone. I turned my phone on airplane mode, but it still goes to the computer.
All right, I like it.
So
usually I research it.
Do
if
you?
that's what you're
Okay.
questioning. If I know that, but my episodes, other than the one interview that I've done so far, everything is like 20 minutes or less. So
Okay.
it's not like a Joe Rogan, let's talk for 4 hours straight about, whatever about that particular person, with that person. It's more, it's something that, like the pomegranate one, I think is maybe 8 minutes long, 10 minutes long, but then
so it's just like you literally throwing on a microphone and recording real quick sometimes.
Yes. But I also have to edit because I'm the one that's doing it all.
So you just sit there. So when you sit down to do an episode, do you have the information out in front of you and are you just like kind of discussing it? Is it scripted?
Oh, nothing's ever scripted.
I love that.
Have you noticed how I talk? And nothing's ever scripted. And I have squirrels, so I'm like, oh, and then this, yeah. So
I like that about podcasts because I don't like scripted podcasts.
Yeah, I've been told that.
It's I like authentic. Like I like to watch somebody like form an opinion in real time.
Yeah. Or there'll be something they'll be like, oh, and there has been things that I have totally. I am horrible at enunciation. I want to enunciate everything properly. So there are things that are be like, I don't know how to word this. Like I just did one because I didn't even know what Holy Festival was, and it's an ancient Hindu ceremony festival.
Okay.
That I literally just had learned like 2 days before. So I was doing like really crash, and I was like the pronunciation of all the mythology. I'm like, I'm not even gonna butcher it, But like I was explaining in another episode something about, I got up on my soapbox about essential oils, and I was talking about adding, and I called Sesame Seed, Sesame Street, cracked myself up, and I was like, and I left it in there, because I was like, oh no, this is who I am. And then,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so yeah, and then my interview with my naturopath that's in Arizona, he and I did an interview, and he's very excited because I wanted people to understand what naturopath is, a naturopathic physician versus what naturopath is, and he explains all of that. Because I want people to know that there's options. I'm a girl that likes to have choices and options, and I want people to understand that they're not stuck.
Yeah.
That I really believe in that.
So is this something you're constantly looking for guests on, or?
I'm just starting to book people, but I'm picking things that are like, of course, interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be bored.
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
it's mine. And if people want to listen, fantastic. But,
well, it's your platform. You should be able to do whatever you want to do, right?
Exactly. So, but I'm slowly adding people that I know, and then there's other people that I haven't reached out to yet that I want to, because like I don't know. There's a lot of things that I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing, and we need to talk about it.
Cool.
Like, yeah. So I'm learning that. Like, I found it very interesting, like to do the cilantro / coriander segment, because coriander is coriander for the rest of the world. We in North America label it as cilantro / coriander because cilantro is the Spanish word for coriander, for the leaves and the stems. So cilantro is just the leaves and the stem, which you can eat the entire plant. The whole plant is edible, but we consider coriander as the dry seeds. And then and actually how cilantro and coriander, depending on where you're at in the world, can help you detox out of heavy metals. And most people don't know about that. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, food is important. Because I haven't even mentioned that I'm also a Juice Plus and a Tower Garden rep, because, it's all about that whole nutrition and how people don't even know.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's benefits to nutrition and like nutrient-rich foods.
Yeah.
And vitamins and all kinds of things. Like I take turmeric.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that has it has black pepper, and there's another one that's you're supposed to put with it too. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, I can't remember right now, but yes.
But yeah, and that has like great benefits.
Oh, great for anti-inflammation.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, especially in today's day and age, don't necessarily like get into that kind of stuff because they're so stuck on like eating just bad foods and
if they don't know anything, like that's the thing. How are you, again, if you don't know, how are you going to improve?
Right.
So whether they're raised on, I have several friends who don't like fruits and vegetables. Like they're like, ew. Like,
what's wrong with
gross. Them? Yeah, I know. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I didn't even realize I was a foodie until, I don't know, a couple years ago, because I'm all like, oh, like I need it. Because in my mind, foodies were like, you go to some expensive restaurant for this like little tiny, and I'm like, that's not how I roll. But I want to try something that has a lot of flavor to it. And I like the mom and pop places.
Yeah.
But I like the, trying, I just like trying new. Life is exciting and adventurous to me, so
yeah,
why not?
I know we were just actually watching Triple D's the other day. Yes. And I put on this episode because he was in Detroit, and I'm like, I want to watch it because he's in Detroit. And it was a Polish restaurant, and my wife's like, do you even like Polish food? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, it doesn't even look appetizing. I'm like, I don't know, I'd try it. I mean, why not?
When was it 2020? I don't think maybe it was 2020. My sister lives in one of the Detroit burbs, and we had gone to Hamtramck to do a Polish art, like their little eggs that they do for Easter. And right down the street was a market, and I'm not huge into Polish food, but I did have some pierogies that I was like, okay, that changed my mind, because they were homemade, actually from. But I also like that authentic. I like that authentic way of cooking.
Yeah,
I dig on it. Like I've had a lot of friends who are like, "What?" Because I tend to be that white chick that's in a restaurant that is the only white chick. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, this is where it's supposed to be, because it's the authentic stuff. Yeah. I'm that girl.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So it's been Yeah. Many times in my life. So yeah.
So we're an hour in.
Yes.
It's crazy. Time flew.
Yes, it did.
Now you have your podcast that podcast. You have your podcast. It's called The Naughty
Mystic.
Is that available everywhere?
It's on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher as of right now. But like I said, it's really new. This is out of my comfort zone with the tech stuff. So
yeah, that's good though.
Oh, I'm very yes, I'm very happy about it. But but I start laughing because I'm editing and everything. It took me a year and a half to really get this out and figure out what I wanted to do. So I'm very happy.
Cool. And so do you post episodes weekly? How does that?
That, because of everything else I'm doing, I haven't figured that aspect out. I should, but I haven't quite. I think there's like 9 or 10 episodes out there. But like I said, a lot of them are under, they're all under 20 minutes, except for the one with my naturopath booth. So far.
Okay. And as far as getting the massage or any of that stuff, is that a business?
Yeah, it is. It's Healing Thyme Massage. The website is MI before like Michigan, the letter MI, and then it's healingthymemassage.com, and thyme is like the herb. THYME. So yes.
Cool. And is there anything else you want to promote before we wrap this up?
No, not to my knowledge at the moment.
Is there any words of, I always try to do this at the end of an episode. I'll ask somebody, is there any like words of inspiration you want to add to the listeners?
I can't think of anything at the moment, but I feel that being curious is important for the human experience. Really. Because some people don't do well with change. Some people don't like transformation, but being curious, even if it's like a baby step, can change your whole life in ways that you don't even know. So I guess that would be are you getting curious enough?
I love it. I love it. And that's one reason why I started the podcast too, is because I'm curious to talk to other people who have different points of view. Like, I mean, your point of view, like, I'm sure a lot of people will be like, I don't agree with that.
Right, exactly.
But it's good to have those discussions because then people know.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'm okay that people don't agree with me. You have your own life experience. And I think, okay, and I know you want to wrap this up, but
no,
it
fine.
really does say this. I don't like cancel culture. Why are we canceling people? Because I don't know why, I've always been a little left of center, if no one has figured this out. But this cancel culture, I'm okay with people coming out and, okay, they did something wrong. But if you're going to cancel everyone, you're going to cancel yourself too.
Yeah.
Because no one is perfect. No one is perfect. And we all make mistakes. We're all human. Yes, some people have done worse things and they need to be punished. But who are you to punish those people?
Well, and that's the problem with censorship is, it's always a good idea until it is you.
Yeah.
And then when it is you, you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
a huge problem. I don't know.
Huge problem.
I don't know where it's going. It's not going in a good direction. I do know that.
Yes. And I hope that people start opening their eyes to that and stop, because I always have different people in my life with different points of view. I've always had, if you want to go political, Republicans and liberals and and I'm going to fight you on stuff. I'm not going to agree with you, but that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, because you know what? When you hear different points of view, you may not agree with them, but you might see something that you were like, oh, I didn't see it from that perspective.
Yeah, it gives you a whole new perspective on that situation.
Yeah.
I've definitely, since doing this podcast, I've gotten different perspectives on so many different subjects, and not necessarily even just political things, just things that I maybe didn't know much about.
Right.
But I look at it as in a different light.
Right.
And that's the important part about doing podcasts and listening to platforms like yours and mine and even Joe Rogan, stuff like that. It's it's important to have those conversations, because if you don't, then the powers that be, control everything.
Yes.
The media controls everything.
Exactly. And I have, we won't even get into that either. There's so many things. It's so many things. And if you're not, stepping into someone else's, if everyone around you looks the same and you do all the same things and you experience all the same things, then how the hell are you going to be able to have a conversation with somebody else? That's why I think traveling and having new experiences is so important. Yeah. And not every person has to look like you. Not every person, is going to have the same opinion, but you're going to come out of that.
No, you're good.
That experience in such a new way. You will have changed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very important.
Yeah, because there's so many amazing people out there, and there's so many things out there that you just need to experience for yourself.
Yeah, and it's easy to get into an echo chamber of people you agree with and just surrounding yourself by those people. But then when you don't put yourself into a situation where you're confronted by different ideas, then you end up in an echo chamber.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
then that's when people want to start silencing you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the thing about discussion, it's good to have somebody tell you when you're wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you say something that's, if I said something that's stupid on this podcast, I hope somebody would be like, hey, you shouldn't have said that. That was wrong, and then this is why. Because then I could be like, oh, wow, you're right. I was wrong.
Right.
I don't think anybody should be canceled over that.
No, because we all make mistakes. And again, if we don't know, then how are we going to, level up or get better or have a bigger life experience? I mean, my experience and a different person is going to have a different experience. I want to embrace that and say, oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. This podcast was a lot of fun. I hope you will come back sometime.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. And tune into your podcast everywhere that it's available. It's on Spotify, Stitcher,
and Google Podcasts so far.
Do you
so far.
upload to Anchor?
Yes, I do. I do.
So it doesn't upload it to all the other platforms that Anchor's associated with?
To my knowledge, no. It only says 4, but I don't understand.
Hold on. I'm going to find it. Because you should have it on Apple.
Oh, that became a issue. So that I don't know how that is even, but we'll figure that out.
I'm going to look it up right now in real time.
In real time.
In real time.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's called The Naughty Mystic.
Yep. And it has a phoenix rising through the fire of a tree. It actually represents my friend that passed and me.
Very cool. Oh, my phone's on airplane mode.
Oh.
That might be an issue.
That might be an issue.
Mystic. There we go. Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, to my knowledge, it's not on there.
You need to get it on Apple.
Okay.
All right. Well, this has been a pleasure.
Right.
And thank you again for doing this.
Yeah.
I will get your links to your podcast and your website and all that stuff and put it in the show notes.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.